back for another week of masterclasses. So we took a break last week because of the Vegas Open, but now here we are on patch 13.25 going over the 5 best comps that you should be playing right now to be climbing and ranking up. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, we're going to talk about a major system change. So this affects just the overall game of TFT, how you should be playing and how you should approach it. Let's talk about what happened on this new patch. And then a couple comps we'll be looking over is the new level 9 board. So we're no longer just like looking for Ziggs and then Ziggs takes over everything. We'll talk about how to play around the big shots and then how to go about the level 8, level 9. A new comp has emerged. EDM Jax Reroll. This comp in total, I think got like 4, technically 5 buffs, but I think 4 is like really the real number. Talk about how to play that. Vertical KDA, how to play it, why it's good, what comps it counters. Hint, it's these next ones. Yone, Edgelords, Crowddivers, really good comp, but gets countered by KDA. And then we'll talk about true damage, which has a really high cap because of Kiana and the use of true damage spat. So these are the comps that I think will be really good on this upcoming patch and will definitely get you that LP in your ranked games. So let's get straight into it. A major system change. On this new patch, the main thing they changed is the headliner odds at level 9. So before you used to have a 90% chance of seeing a 4-cost headliner on level 9 and a 10% chance of seeing a 5-cost headliner. Now it has been changed to 98 and 2. So they have decreased the chance of seeing a 5-cost headliner by 80%. So now having only a 2% chance of seeing a 5-cost headliner is incredibly low, which means we can't be greeting fast 9 anymore. We can't be going level 9, selling our chosen, hopefully trying to hit a legendary. It's just too inconsistent, and we recommend now to stabilize with a 4-cost headliner on level 8, or you could also like be re-rolling 3 costs on level 7 and then slowly go level 9 to cap out your board. But one of these two strategies, fast 9 is not valid anymore, so don't be going level 9, selling your headliner and trying to hit a 5-cost headliner. It's extremely rare, and in some cases you will high roll, but it's just it's too hard, and this is the major change they made. So moving on to our actual comps, the first one is our level 9 capped big shots. So what we want to do, this is our level 9 board here, so 9 units. Our main carry is going to be Ezreal, and we are going to acquire him on level 8, rolling on either 4-2 or 4-5, just depending on how rich you are, and ideally going for the big shots headliner, not the heartsteel. And now what we're going to do is, after we make a general board, most of the time we won't have this front line. We'll just be playing our strongest front line. Maybe like instead of Alawi it's a Zac, or instead of a York we have like some a Echo plus a Blitzcrank, some sort of like suitable front line, right? This is more easy to get on level 9, like these 5 costs, especially like these 5 costs. So after you hit level 9, we're not selling the Ezreal. We're going to keep him and just use that level 9 for that extra unit slot, and also the 10% chance to see the 5-cost units. So this is the main thing that has changed from this patch, is just getting a headliner on level 8, a 4-cost headliner going at level 8, and keeping them while going level 9, and then capping your board around that headliner instead of trying to acquire a new one. Ezreal best in slot is extremely easy to remember: red buff, blue buff, and then your last item. It could be Infinity Edge. Giant Slayer is the best delta currently, I think. Last Whisper Hodge is fine as well. But red buff and blue buff, Ezreal uses this extremely well. Red buff getting that % extra damage, that burn, and that extra attack speed, super good on him. Blue buff recently got bug fixed, so the damage amp now properly refreshes. So now blue buff, it is okay to build. And then the last one is just anything you want. IE has a lot of burst. Giant Slayer helps you through the front line. But I'd probably do red buff, blue buff. Shojin got nerfed, and with the change, like the bug fix to blue buff for low cost units is just a lot better than Shojin. Last but not least, remember to keep bench slots open for the Jhin turrets. We have 9 possible slots open, and with a blue buff on Jhin, he will be getting those turrets going, and then if you're able to get a full bench of turrets, he will most likely be 1-shotting or 2-shotting whatever unit he's attacking. Alright, so this is how you cap out your board on level 9. After you hit this, then yes, you could go level 10 if you want, and then maybe cap around some Kiana variants. But yes, you don't see Lucian on this board. Lucian is still bugged with his attack speed, and the unit itself is just not very good. So we recommend to go with the big shot variant instead. Okay, so our next comp that we see is our EDM Jax Reroll. So this is a new comp, very little exposure so far on the NA ladder, but there are some people who are starting to pick it up. We'll talk about why this is good now. So we have our EDM buffs. The base ability effectiveness has been increased by mostly 10% and then an extra 5%, for 5% at 5 EDM. So base ability effectiveness includes everything. So it includes like the abilities affect scaling, it includes the ability damage, and then if, for example, if you put it on Zac, it affects like the stun duration. So effectiveness just includes everything that is related to ability. The EDM Jax frequency has been lowered by 1 second. I crossed out the Z because you're not going to be sampling Z here. And then Mosher also got a buff at 4 Mosher and 6 Mosher. And there are infinite Moshers. I think there are actually 7 Moshers in total. So it's very easy to hit 4 Mosher. So without hitting your Poppy, sometimes you can't hit Poppy. And it's very easy to hit Set and Urgot on level 7. But if you don't hit the Poppy, you can just play Gnar for a bit until you find a Poppy. So you'll very easily be able to fit 4 Mosher. Also, Poppy got more buffs. She now does more damage with her ultimates, 1 and 2 star, even 3 star, but we're not really gonna be 3-star in Poppy unless we can. And then the headliner Poppy also got a buff. It's not applicable to this comp because we will be going for the headliner headliner EDM Jax. However, if you are just playing Poppy in general on your board and you see a headliner, know that she now has 50 more HP and 5 more AD. So that's pretty good. So that is why this comp is good. We'll talk about now how to play it. So we're going to be re-rolling, or not re-rolling, technically we're just rolling for the EDM Jax headliner on stage 3-2 level 6. After we have acquired this Jax and formulated a decent stage 3 board around him, we will then be starting to go level 7 to continue re-rolling for this Jax 3. On level 6, I've mentioned this a couple times before. On level 6, we have a 40% chance of seeing a 2-cost unit, and then on level 7, we have a 35% chance of seeing a 2-cost unit, which means by leveling, we only drop our chances of seeing a 2-cost unit by 5 per shop slot. So that is it's not insignificant, but it's not that much, which means that we're still going to be able to hit Jax 3, this 2-cost on level 7, and level 7 increases our odds a lot by to see 4-cost units, which we need. We need our Zed, our Zac, and our Poppy. So this is why we are going level 7 while rerolling. We're not just staying level 6. And then we'll move on to our best in slot Jax. So this can be Jewel Gauntlet, Titans, and then some form of healing. This can be Hodge or Bloodthirster. Hodge is a lot better, but sometimes you don't always have that. Make sure to sample Jax. Make sure to sample Jax. You will have on your bench it's like a green like EDM mod. All you have to do is like pick it up and then sample your Jax. He will start glowing, and then all your EDM units will use the Jax Sleep as that. Early game, you could play Superfan. So because of the Gnar Jax already being Mosher, you could just fit 2 other Superfans. So like a Lilia and a Kennen. If you high roll a Nico, then that's fine too. Maybe even play like an early KDA board. This is fine for stage 2, going even into stage 3. However, into stage 4 on level 7, you will be looking to play some sort of a 4 Mosher 5 EDM board. So this is it. I think this comp has a lot of potential. I'll have to figure out more of this myself, but with this sheer amount of buffs, I think this comp is going to be very good. So moving on to vertical KDA, this is going to be a level 8 board. As I mentioned, the blue buff damage amp is fixed, and blue buff is a lot better than the Shojin on Ahri. So now that we actually can build the blue buff Ahri, this comp is very good. Also, it does incredible into melee comps because of our single target damage of the Ahri. Fighting the melee comps, you will most likely be 2 or 3 shotting the enemy Viegos, Zeds, Yones, so this is extremely good. And also, because of our Akali, we fare very well into compositions with few backline bait units, for example, Country, that only has Samira and Vex in the backline. That's why this comp is good. We're going to be playing vertical KDA, so this is 7 KDA, and then Ahri items is blue buff, Nash's or red buff, and then Gunblade or Giant Slayer. I think this is the best combination. And then Akali items is going to be Hodge, or Hand of Justice, Infinity Edge, and a red buff. Obviously, if you have one red buff on one of your main carries already, you don't need red buff on the other, and you can substitute it for a different item. Now, technically, I think that having a KDA Akali is a bit better than the KDA Ahri because you're going to be playing Superfan in this board. It's not too big of a deal, but the super fan item for Ari is Jewel Gauntlet, which I don't think is that good. Yes, you have so much AP, but the unit is going to be one-shotting whatever she hits, or sorry, not one-shotting, two-shotting or three-shotting whatever she hits anyway, and I think the extra cast from either the Nashers or the healing, because of so much damage she does with the Gunblade, is more valuable than like the overkill from the Jewel Gauntlet. And then for Akali, if she is the headliner, then the super fan item she gets is Hodge, which is extremely good on her best in slot item. So this is why I think the headliner Akali is a bit better than Ari. But if you get that KDA Ari, you cannot pass it up. And if you have like a red buff ready for her instead of an Asher's, then just throw it on the Akali and you're good to go. Okay, moving on. Yone Edgelords. This comp has been good for 2 patches now. This is the second patch. What you're going to do is you're going to be on level 7. You're going to play Heartsteel early for stage 2 and stage 3. Go for that Yone headliner and then reroll for Yone 3 on level 7. Ideally, you want to have Crowddiver, so then you could play 4 Crowddiver and eventually 6 Crowddiver once you hit Kiana. But Edgelord is okay. You could play 5 Edgelord. You just have to play Riven, which is honestly like fine. Yone best in slot, BT Titan's Hodge, these are all great items. You can also use Infinity Edge for more damage, Edge of Night for more survivability, and Sterix is always a good item on him. The core is Kale, Yone, Mordekaiser, Viego, Zed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then your +2 is just dependent on your Yone chosen. So if it's Crowddiver and then you hit the Kiana, then you can play Echo Kiana. If it's Edgelord, then you'll play Riven +1. There's plenty of different options. However, these are your 5 core units. The one thing you need to remember with this comp is you are technically a scaling comp because of Crowddiver, and especially if you have Titans, so you don't want to be focused, especially bursted by single target carries such as Ari right away at the start of the fight. So position opposite side away from the single target enemy carries and you should be good to go. And our very last comp on this patch that I think will be very good is True Damage. This, as I mentioned at the start of the video, this composition has an extremely high cap because of the Kiana units and also the potential of getting spatulas and using that spat to make true damage spats, which is really good on Caitlyn, as you might have seen at the TFT Vegas Open. There are 2 general ways to play True Damage, and it will be either on level 7 or going fast level 8. You can either reroll Senna if uncontested, or you could tempo into True Damage Akali 2, True Damage Caitlyn, and Kiana on level 8. As Senna is contested in most games, or not most, Senna is contested in a generous amount of games. If this happens to you, then you could just play Senna 2 and then push levels and go level 8 for playing around your 4 costs and your Kiana. And if you're not, then you can reroll if you'd like. The 2 extra units that you can swap out is the Vex and Amumu. If you don't hit anything better, these are fine units to play. It's just good synergies and good CC. But if you do hit your 5 costs, like your Alawi, York, Sono, if you have an extra like Ginsu's Rageblade, then play her instead. Thresh, this is perfectly fine. But mostly you'll be playing these 6 units and then playing around your 2 extras. Alright, and I think that's it. So I'll just do a quick recap of everything we talked about today, and then we'll end it off here. So patch 13.25 or 25, it came out yesterday. Fast 9 is not valid anymore. Either reroll on level 7 and slowly go level 9 while keeping your board upgraded, or stabilize with a 4-cost headliner on level 8 and then go level 9. Big shot or level 9 capped big shot, playing around that Ezreal, keeping that Ezreal as you go level 9, and then capping around the rest of your board with your 5 costs. EDM Jax Reroll, hitting that EDM Jax headliner on stage 3-2 on level 6, and then waiting till level 7 before continue to reroll for that Jax 3. Vertical KDA, extremely good into melee comps such as Yone, Viego, Zed. This is very good, and also good into country because of the Akali. Yone Edgelord is very good comp, just make sure to position away from single target enemy carries. And then last but not least, True Damage, one of the highest caps. If you get a spat, make sure you pick up that sword to make a True Damage spat, and you are good to go. So that has been everything for today's class. I hope you learned something, and I hope this helps out in your climb. It is now time for questions or any reflections, and I'm